Looking for someone to solve your security system needs seems like it should be an easy task that's just a Google search away. But did you know that there's a wide variety of security specializations out there? We're going to go over a few of the major categories security professionals usually fall into, and we'll give you a little insight into the nuances of each.
Welcome back to the Security Bros. I'm Ken, this is James, and as it turns out, not all security is the same.
In some cases, like banking security companies and commercial security companies, they inherently do the same thing and install the same systems, but they go about it in a different way. The key distinction is that they service different clients.
Wait, so you're saying that the key distinction is that they service different clients?
That's right.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is that the key distinction between these companies is that they service different clients.
That's right, Ken. So let's take it back to banking security. So these companies are focused on protecting financial institutions, and typically companies aimed toward this type of customer, they have a whole process. They have certain documents that the banks usually need, and they kind of have a whole flow set up to service these customers, right? Commercial security companies are aimed at businesses, multi-tenant facilities, things like that. Sometimes banking security companies will try to do commercial work, and we've actually seen this in the past where it doesn't always go so well. And the reason is that the flow of how you complete projects in each of those industries can kind of vary, right? So commercial company customers are going to look for something that's a bit different than, say, what the banking industry is going to look for.
In banking, they have a much larger process that they're going to want you to go through to do anything. And so when you take that style of operation and you try to put that to commercial, you're going to come out really slow. You're going to seem like a really slow company, and it's going to frustrate the commercial clients that that kind of just want you to be there and just do it. Just show up and just do it.
In banking security, they're looking for products that can track different things. Maybe they're looking for a video system that somehow integrates with the ATM machine, so that way all of the transactions done at the ATM get logged with the video system, so the clips of the video clips of people using the ATM are tracked and all that stuff. Another thing is in banking, I always get this all the time. People are like, "Oh, you're in security? Why do banks always have terrible quality videos, right? Or videos, surveillance footage?" They didn't need to have the best of the best cameras. They just needed to prove that they were robbed, right? So like in the event of a situation, they just needed to prove that they were robbed. Insurance would take care of the rest. They didn't really need to worry about capturing the face of the guy who did it. They just needed to prove that it happened.
It's not always that they have bad security cameras. Sometimes the cameras are okay, but they would record them at a very low quality and at a very low frame rate.
Oh, there's that too, yeah.
And so you would end up with, just like you said, blurry video, but it's not because the camera couldn't record better. It's because they would set the settings on the recorder to be really horrible. And also they needed to record over a large portion of time.
Right.
I think it's like at least 3 months, but in some cases much longer, 6 months or more.
And that was to meet certain regulations, I believe.
Yeah, but then they would stick small hard drives, and then to make it fit on the small hard drive, they sometimes it would be a 500 gigabyte hard drive, like half a terabyte. And then, with our customers, we'll go in sometimes with like a 32 terabyte hard drive. They're going with half a terabyte. Of course, they have to set it really low if you're going to put it in a teeny tiny hard drive.
If you're going to spend the money on a system, you might as well get what the system can give you, right? Like, why are you going to spend thousands of dollars on this like nice security system and then have like all your footage of people like stop motion?
Yeah, spend another $500 and get some storage.
Just
enjoy it. Like they spend like $20,000, $30,000, and then they want to scrimp on the $500 worth of storage so that they have horrible video. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's banking for you, because they're trying to check off certain boxes, regulatory boxes, and they're not necessarily as concerned with the actual being secure part.
I think that's what made it took like the joy out of it for me. You know, you get the satisfaction of doing a good job, but it was very regulatory, like you said, right? It wasn't like you were coming in and you could do a good job and you were installing cool equipment. And then at the end you were like, wow, like I installed these cool, like the best new security cameras and the quality is really good. And they have this cool access control system and it's all working together. You would like do all this work, put it in, and then at the end, it just kind of looked like meh, right? But it checked all the boxes.
And if they ever did have somebody, say, come up to a window and say, hey, I have a weapon, give me whatever you have in the till, whatever you have in your
The register,
whatever. The person leaves with the money, and then they call up their security company who sends a tech who has to do a complete like audit of all the sensors. It's less like, hey, can you help us track down this individual, and more of, oh, we got to go through the process now. Whereas with commercial clients, they don't really care about, you know, testing the motion sensor for this random other thing that happened. They just want to know who was this person. They want to track down what happened, or how can we prevent it in the future, or something like that. It's much more practical, straightforward, and they want speed. Like they want you to react now. If you have a security company and that's what they're used to working with, it's going to be a shock to the system to try to do commercial work. A company that services those kind of clients has to have entire departments and divisions and all kinds of people, and set up an operation workflow that takes all those things into account. And when you try to apply that to residential or commercial, it's going to be tough.
There's going to be some challenges there.
Maybe they could fit more into like military, like the amount of hurdles you have to jump through even to get like a technician onto a military base.
I've done the dynamic duo. I've done banking work on a military base. Took like the whole day just to do a simple task.
Right. Well, they have the money for it.
Yeah.
You know, commercial doesn't like to waste money like that. And so that's the other thing. And that's another reason why these companies have a hard time.
Yeah.
Because they're going to find like they cannot charge for commercial what they charge for like banking or for the military work, because the commercial folks are going to say like, wait, I'm paying $2,000 for someone to do like replace a motion detector? No way.
Next up is residential security. As it would seem from the name, they focus on doing, you know, like single family homes and maybe apartments and condos and stuff like that.
I have a friend that contacted me this week because they closed on a new home. They need security for their house, obviously. But the concern is, do they want a company like an ADT to come and do monitoring, because they would rather not have the intrusiveness of a company monitoring their cameras and their alarm system. Sure. We made a whole video about this where you were kind of arguing you don't need the alarm monitoring as much as you used to, and I was arguing for it. We kind of picked two sides and each tried to make a viable argument. The reasons why you would have alarm monitoring have actually decreased over time. It used to be that you couldn't monitor your own system.
Right.
Now you can. So if you feel comfortable doing it, and I know that this person works from home a lot, so you're home a lot already, and the few times you're not, maybe you're comfortable taking the responsibility of doing the monitoring from your mobile app. And they're putting in the cameras, and they can put in door sensors, and they're putting in smart locks. And I know that you can have those all tied together to do-it-yourself stuff. If you're more comfortable monitoring yourself, great, but that's your responsibility. The good reasons to have the alarm monitoring would be things like maybe you hook up some fire sensors, a gas sensor, maybe you're asleep, maybe you're away, maybe you're traveling. And if your house is on fire or there's a gas leak and you have a baby in the house, which they do, you know, maybe you would feel more comfortable that somebody else is awake all the time watching those sensors for you. There are companies that will cater to those residential clients with those residential needs. And the companies that are solely residential will probably handle residential better than a company that is like primarily commercial, but also takes some residential.
In a commercial space, typically you can walk in with your tools and your shoes and stuff like that. But a lot of times in a residential space, they either want you to put the little booties on, or you have to be kind of, the workflow is different. In a commercial space, it is a little bit different. It's made to be walked through and kind of worked in a little bit more than, say, somebody's home. And kind of similar to the banking products versus commercial security products, a residential security company is going to use a little bit different products than a commercial security company.
The operations of a commercial company are also going to be different from those of a residential company. And just like you meant with the banking to commercial, where banking to me is very heavy on the administrative side versus the technician side. So they're gonna have like a lot of administrative overhead for every single technician that they have. On the commercial side, you can actually reduce a lot of that, because commercial applications, they don't wanna pay for you to have, 50 office workers to one technician. Whereas on the commercial side, you're going to reduce some of that overhead so that you can be more efficient. Residential security would have to be even more efficient, because most homeowners they want to, we call it pinching pennies. They want to get the most bang to their buck, even more than commercial folks do. Feel like everything's a bit more lightweight in terms of what they need. I mean, even something simple, just like customer information. In our software, we need to be able to track things like the location of the client, which could be, could be an apartment building, but that's going to be different from, let's say, the property management company. And the property management company might have some sort of billing agent that we reach out to when we're sending invoices. And they might have someone else, other contact, where we send things like our insurance certificates and our W-9s. And they might have somebody else that we reach out to when we need to discuss the actual property itself. And then of course, you have the on-site contacts from the customer at the apartment location. And so there's just a lot more type of information. So even the software that you need to run your company is going to be very different from the software that you would have to do residential. Residential is much more simple. Usually your customer is like Ann Smith, located at this one address. And that's the address, that's the billing, that's the contact for everything, is this Ann person. It's all kind of in one. It's way more simple. You can run that business just like it's much more streamlined. Whereas when you work in commercial, there's so many different types of contacts, and there's addresses that are like if we're working on a construction project, the location would be eventually the client, because we're building what will eventually be the client location, if you will, but there's a construction company linked to that location. There's a property management company linked to that location. We just have so many different things linked to any one particular location, and each of those things that are linked can have multiple contacts for them. And so for us, the overhead requirement is greater, but when you get that down really well, you can actually service the needs of these commercial clients and, make it look easy. They like that. If you were to take someone that's used to doing residential and have them all of a sudden work in a commercial space, their minds would just be blown, because they're not used to that kind of working that way. And their processes won't be set up to handle it. And then the customers will get, once again, very frustrated. The more when you get down to residential, it's much more streamlined, it's much more smooth.
Yeah.
And therefore those companies, their prices are also going to be a lot lower.
It's a couple things. It's like the size of the company and then the processes that the company use, right? Because the next one I had on the list is industrial security, which you actually just mentioned. Industrial security is more focused on like power plants and large critical infrastructure facilities, right? These would still be considered like a commercial security company, and then not really on the physical side of things. So all of the ones that we've talked about so far have been on the physical side of things, which means that they install access control cameras, like physical equipment. Cybersecurity focuses on protecting computer systems and networks from attacks and unauthorized access. Then you have event security, which if you have a sporting event and you need some guards, or, sometimes these actually provide temporary camera systems for large events. And then personal security, these are things like bodyguards for really cool people like Ken. And then loss prevention, which is, I guess, more internal security to a company, the folks that make sure a particular company does not have a bunch of people steal their stuff. And then information security. This is people that focus on protecting sensitive data from being stolen and having security breaches or leaks from different organizations.
There's another type of security where it's like armored vehicle security, where they do transport of cash, say to banks or ATMs.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be cash, it could be jewels.
Yeah, I feel like the two big ones that we get confused with are cybersecurity and armed guard services.
Google will keep updating our Google map location
Yeah.
with services that we don't offer.
Yeah, they'll literally list you as armed guard services company. Let me give you a quick recap. So there's a couple, and I'm just going to stick to the actual physical security company services.
Amen.
Amen. Preach. Right. So you have banking security, commercial security, and then you have residential security. And it's not on my list, but I'm glad you mentioned it, like government security contractors and industrial security. I know we talked about some other stuff, but those are your main types of security.